On September 1st, 2023, Halloween Horror Nights returns for its 32nd event. Before that, let's head back in time on Expedition Halloween Horror Nights. On October 31st, every year, a unique holiday is celebrated, the roots of which come from the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. The day marks the end of summer and the harvest when the seasons change. On this day, the boundary between the world and the next is thin, enabling people to connect with the dead. Many believe that the Celts would dress in costumes to either warn or welcome the dead, make lanterns, and spend the day enjoying special feasts. This haunted connection would be the inspiration for the start of modern Halloween, though those roots would run deeper before reaching modern day. The Christian Halloween date of October 31st began for a different reason. When All Saints' Day was moved from May to November 1st in the calendar, the 31st of October became known as All Hallows' Eve. Some say this date was even chosen to offset the pagan celebration of Samhain. It would be the Christian version of the holiday that would lessen the original celebration, yet keep the basic traditions evolving over time into the Halloween we know today. Celebrating October 31st with a much lighter version with candy, costumes, and just a little hint of the sinister. Wait, that's too far back in time. Let's fast forward a little.
Step into the horror classic, Halloween. The Weekend, After Hours Nightmare, and more. Summon your Scream Squad to Universal's Halloween Horror Nights.
On September 2nd, 2022, Halloween Horror Nights opened for its 31st year. Universal Orlando would take those Halloween traditions and bring them to life. 31 years, 31st of October, and an icon was back. Sort of. You might be thinking, why now? Why March 2023 for your ranking of Halloween Horror Nights houses, Sam? And to that I say, I waited over 25 years to talk about the previous years, so you could say this is actually more on time than ever. And we also have Halloween Horror Nights 32 stuff to talk about. But first, Halloween Horror Nights 31 featured 10 houses, 5 scare zones, and 2 shows. More themed food than ever, and the tribute store returned. Let's take a look at what was offered, what I enjoyed the most, and we're going to start with the houses. While I'm placing these in my order of least favorite house to most, all of the houses of Halloween Horror Nights 31 were good. Each person has their own tastes and likes, so I'd like to hear what houses you enjoyed most in the comments. There is nothing more traditional, so let's start with witches. The first, or I guess you could say the lowest, on my list of Universal's new House of Horrors. Just really quick before we get into the first one, the first person who can tell me how many old Horror Nights house names are included in this video will get a prize. Located in Soundstage 22, stranger things would be afoot from dusk until nearly dawn in Spirits of the Coven. A coven of flapper witches would lure you into their 1920s speakeasy, revealing their true form and turning you into a witch's brew. Throughout the event this year, many houses featured a reference to it being the 31st year of the event, and Coven began with a facade being set on Dock 31. This house told a scary tale throughout, set in 1928, a speakeasy disguised as a meat processing factory. The witch's brew would be smuggled to other covens inside dead animals, with men being the main ingredient. As you headed deeper into the speakeasy, the flappers would transition into their witch forms, ending with the Queen Witch performing a ritual. Everyone looked ripe, with a few men who ended up dead. Silence was an issue in the first weeks, but further voice lines were added to improve the experience. While the house was good and had some great scenes, it was not the shining example of a house done well for me. Sadly, Spirits of the Coven just did not bring the anxiety or have the total chaos and insanity I was hoping for in the setting. The witch creatures looked great, but just did not hit the mark as one of my favourite houses of the event. It had style and its own feel, but just needed a little more. Moving over to Soundstage 23, home previously to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Bride of Frankenstein Lives the previous year, would be Hell Block Horror. What was rumoured to be a late change for the lineup, you entered Prison Block 31, whose savage inmates are monstrous creatures. If they broke free from their cells, it's a death sentence for everyone. Taking place in a secret prison that held all sorts of creatures, from aliens to zombies, the power core had failed and the monsters of course had escaped. You had to go in and save the prison by detonating the core, your typical prison setting with a monster twist. Some classic Universal monsters from Horror Nights past were found within, while all kinds of creations of the damned attacked you and some classic Horror Nights gags returned. It was just not stand out among the great lineup for the year. The thing with this house was that it was very samey and not enough variety of creatures. Vampires returned and have been a staple of the event for years with houses like Castle Vampire, but this was just okay. As you entered through the prison, things were not going well, as the gates of the prison was ruined. The deeper you went, the more frantic it began to feel. The house gave that old school feel, but the event had evolved since then, and it just felt a little old and samey feeling. The eagle-eyed Horror Nights fans may have been able to spot a swamp yeti or a mouth brooder from years past, and it's always nice to see creature throwbacks, but there was just not enough of them for me. For the first time, what you think would be a disaster would be one of the more unique house locations you could run to after entering the park. Located in Fast and Furious Supercharge, for the first time, temporary tents were constructed in the brand new location for the house. Entering through the Fast and Furious queue, if that wasn't scary enough, would be the Horrors of Blumhouse, a new double feature where you would find yourself trapped in the world of Freaky before trying to escape the grabber in the black phone. The house was essentially two smaller houses with a break between them. First you entered Freaky, which brought both the giggles and gore as the twist on Freaky Friday movie unfolded around you. The sets, while small, did a good job of retelling the story and had some good frights along with gore, including plenty of flesh wounds. The second half had you enter the grabber's dungeon of terror and witness the dark torment that awaited inside. As Doomsday approached, the extremely dark house amped up the fear, which at points would be first class, with jump scares. As Blumhouses go at Halloween Horror Nights, it was one of the better ones that have existed at the event, though the black phone section was scarier and the better part of the house. Descendants of Destruction will be located in Sprung Tent 1. As you actually descend the subway tunnels of a deserted and destroyed New York, lurking in the dark were hungry mutants looking to feast on the last remnants of humanity. The deeper you got into the blood pit of mutated survivors, the more bloodthirsty and mutated the creatures inside became. It was a clever house that changed as you went deeper. This was kind of an in-between house for me, having some of the more impressive sets inside a sprung tent, which is my favourite part of the event, made me a captive audience and someone who was always going to love it. As you descend into the catacombs of subway tunnels, you weave around the sets, making you feel like the whole house was connected, and you really were going deeper and deeper. A great solid original house that kinda gave me light Last of Us vibes at points. One of the most talked about houses before the event began was Bugs Eaten Alive, located in Sprung 10-2. While touring in 1950s Home of the Future, you will be surrounded by the slime of bugs everywhere, as hordes of many-legged terrors descend upon you and your Scream Squad. The 1950s setting for this house, the music, the cast, and the feel were on point, reaching into the depths of people's fear of bugs. That literally felt like you entered a hive by the end of it. The house was creepy, but it was just so dark that you could not see half of the bugs inside. Every single wall was covered in them, and during the daytime tour, Unmasking the Horror, the house was even creepier. It was more of a comedy house than a scary one, unless you really hated bugs, of course, as they would be spawning out of every hole in the sets. The giant bugs, which had a wicked growth, were some of the highlights within this Halloween house. No matter where you went inside, you would find bugs alive or dead. Exposure to them would be impossible to avoid. The Weeknd had you enter the mind of The Weeknd, where he would stalk you through the surreal nightmare of his after-hours music. This house, I was very interested to see how it would turn out. Halloween Horror Nights had done music houses in the past, and each had been fun. This house was extremely fun. From the party in the queue to the music throughout the house, it was hard not to come out smiling. The Parade Warehouse was introduced in 2018 as a new location for houses at the event with Seeds of Extinction. And every single house in this location has been some of the best for the year, from Universal Monsters to the Haunting of Hill House. And The Weeknd After Hours Nightmares was no exception. I don't think I'll be able to hear Blinding Lights again and not think of this queue. The next 4 houses are so close to me in rankings that it's kind of hard to place them. But first is Fiesta del Chupacabra, which took visitors into a Latin American village where the legend of the Chupacabra is celebrated with a colourful fiesta, and the streets are lined with the crimson blood of tourists. Those tourists would be us. This time we finally got a finished Chupacabra house. And let's just say first, a house with puppets in it gets points in my book, and it's impossible to have fallen low in the rankings. This was no ghost town, as the village was filled with something to see in every direction. The Chupacabra's reign of blood would continue as you stumbled through the village like The Walking Dead. 3D computer mock-ups of the houses at Horror Nights has enabled some incredible line of sight facades and house creations. And this was an example where you could just see so much of the house from many locations. Inside were characters wearing masks to disguise villagers from committing their sacrifices and have their bodies collected for the Chupacabra. This has got to be one of the best examples of a real living feeling village that has ever been seen at the event. Halloween has been featured at the event before, originally in the incredible 2014 house. It is one of my favorite horror movie franchises, and the original house was one of my favorite to ever exist at the event in the past. This new take on the 1978 story of Michael Myers, which is a legacy in blood at this point, was very similar to the original 2014 house with a few changes. Michael was back home, and not just for the holidays. Resurrecting his Scream house at the event, victims became blood prey for Michael to try and survive the knife-wielding killer. It featured impressive sets and plenty of scares, with that iconic music playing. Who can't like walking through the story of Halloween? Now for the most beautiful and eerie house of the whole event, perhaps ever. This scary tale was Dead Man's Pier Winter's Wake, and was a sequel to The Great Scare Zone from 2016. In a New England fishing village, undead fishermen emerge from the waves to seek their revenge. Here the village is haunted by the evil dead fishermen emerging from the dead waters. The entrance facade was one of the best ever seen, and it was all tied together by a violin soundtrack playing throughout. It captured the iconic feel of walking through a haunted village or a ghost town in winter, similar to how Yeti Terror in the Yukon felt. Boats rust in pieces as you head through the docks and even underwater into a sinking ship. The only reason this house did not get the top spot for me was it just wasn't too scary. My favourite house of Halloween Horror Nights 22 would not only be beautiful, but scary. Universal Monsters Legends Collide, located in the Parade Warehouse, would be my favourite house of Halloween Horror Nights 2022. For the third event in a row, Halloween Horror Nights played tribute to the classic monsters that made the studio what it is, featuring 3 Universal monsters in an epic battle of the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy. Their mission: find the amulet that will break their curse. Set within Karis's tomb, we ended up in the middle of the Forsaken battle. The classic Silver Scream's villains would lunge at you from every direction as you walked through, sometimes in a triple scare that I literally saw people fall on the floor from. With mirrors and hidden passages, this house had no safe haven. Every single walkthrough of this house left me loving it even more, and the random winner at the end of the night made me even more excited to head into it each time and see who won. #Team Mummy. It really was a trick or treat to experience this scary tale of legends actually colliding. Where the Halloween theme would really come together at this event would be in the scare zones. This year would be the first for some time that would tie the event together with an icon, the Pumpkin Lord. First introduced in the Wicked Growth realm of the Pumpkin House at Halloween Horror Nights 30, grown from vines and pumpkins, the Pumpkin Lord would draw life from the traditions of the season and would summon minions to help conjure what Halloween really meant. He even got his own merchandise, so I'm gonna call him an icon. Standing over the entranceway this year at the start of the Pumpkin Lord's domain would be the Horrors of Halloween, located in the Plaza of the Stars. This Path of the Wicked. Actually, I think that's enough of those. Sweet's Revenge took a twist on Halloween candy and will be located in New York. This scare zone even linked with the tribute store for the year that was located within it. Conjure the Dark in San Francisco would go all the way back to the first All Hallows Eve. Scarecrow Cursed Soil in Central Park was a sequel to Scarecrow the Reaping, one of my favourite houses ever, and my personal favourite scare zone of the year would be Graveyard Deadly Unrest. Located in Hollywood, this eerie graveyard had some of the best eerie vibes a scare zone has had for quite some time. This year the event featured one show. Wait, 2 shows? Halloween Horror Nights Nightmare Fuel returned with Wildfire in the Fear Factor stage, and a brand new, unique and creative Lagoon show, Ghoulish: A Halloween Tale, was shown on the Lagoon. Featuring custom animations, sadly the show had a short run as a hurricane damaged some of the equipment, and it did not return for the rest of the event. I actually only got to see it once personally, and it will be interesting if we see a take of this return for this year. Park-wide music this year for the event was somewhat forgettable compared to some of the previous years, but food this year stepped up more than ever, with tons of new themed drinks and food to try. I will take a pizza skull right now. The event turned into somewhat of a horror-themed food festival. Who couldn't love that? Scare Actor Dine-In also returned after a few years, this time located in Louise. It was a little weird in the new location. I had some of the most fun of the whole event during my 2 visits at the buffet. Halloween Horror Nights 31 was a good year, and mostly returned to form after the pandemic times, with good houses, good food, and good times. Give me some fog, some haunted houses, and one of my favourite theme parks in the world, and there will be no complaints. I have some houses I prefer, but just being able to go to the park and enjoy an unmatched atmosphere has become my favourite part of Halloween Horror Nights. Now, with even more food and things to do, the best Halloween event just keeps getting better. There was some talk this year that the event had become more family friendly, with the cartoony Halloween theme making the event less scary, and many people seem to be sick of seeing Little Boo. But this talk has been going on for decades. Halloween Horror Nights at its core still remains the same. A giant Halloween party, and what more could you ask for than that? I also want to give a shout out to everyone who worked the event. Crowds were high this year, and everyone from ops to scare actors did an amazing job bringing Halloween Horror Nights 31 to life. For the last time, let's fast forward a little more. Halloween Horror Nights 32 is coming. Running from September 1st through October 31st, one of the greatest theme park events returns with 10 all-new unmatched haunted houses once again. Single day tickets are already on sale, and we actually already have one house announced already, with a return of Chucky to the event. It will be nice to see a new take on one of his houses. While there are many rumors, the question is, what houses do you want to see next year? Let me know. Remember, you don't know Jack, true fear comes from within, never go alone, the house always wins, and most importantly, I will see you in the fog. Soon. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Halloween Horror Nights. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to join the expedition. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram for updates on upcoming episodes, and a special thank you to our Patreons for supporting the channel. We will see you next time. How many old house references did you spot in this video? Let me know below. We'll see you next time. Psychoscarapy, Poltergeist, and All Night Dying Take 1 and 2. Just a few extra.